So we've come to the final module, and this is really where we're going to get into the heart of deferred prosecution agreements, which should be important for every business leader. Business leaders need to be taking, understanding the precautionary steps that they can take to lessen a company's vulnerability to criminal charges. Now, they may have built a business with the best of intentions, yet as companies grow, they bring more people onto the team, and those team members may make decisions that violate regulations or laws. Although a company may not be able to escape civil liability for misdeeds by employees, company leaders can take steps to persuade prosecutors that they built a company with a good faith effort to avoid problems with the law. And that's a big deal. Because if company leaders persuade prosecutors that they strive to operate as good corporate citizens, they may qualify for leniency through either a deferred prosecution agreement or a non-prosecution agreement. Although civil penalties can certainly be severe, criminal penalties may obliterate a company's prospects to continue operations. So on June 1st, 2020, the U.S. Department of Justice published a white paper to guide prosecutors on what they should consider when assessing whether to bring criminal charges against a company. Anyone with an interest could learn from the DOJ guidance. It shows that if companies build effective compliance programs, prosecutors may be more inclined to offer leniency through a deferred prosecution agreement or a non-prosecution agreement. Now, our website at Compliance Mitigation offers a link with commentary to that white paper, but this portion of the lesson is going to explain our interpretation of what we learned. And the guidance draws from the white paper that's titled Principles of Federal Prosecution of Business Organizations. And that white paper identifies specific factors that prosecutors should consider when assessing whether to bring criminal charges against a corporation. Number one, they want to know about the adequacy and effectiveness of the corporation's compliance program at the time of the offense. Two, they're going to want to know about the adequacy and effectiveness of the corporation's compliance program at the time of the charging decision. So has it changed? Has it evolved? Three, they're going to want to know about the corporation's remedial efforts to implement an adequate and effective corporate compliance program. Or four, they're going to want to know about the corporation's remedial efforts to improve an existing compliance program. So when deliberating over a plea for leniency, the prosecutors are going to pay very close attention to the corporation's compliance program. That's why I showed with you the ones that we designed at our team, because we believe those would be effective in helping a business articulate their efforts to live as a good corporate citizen. Now, presumably, if a company has a good compliance program, the company is going to receive more favorable treatment from prosecutors. An assistant attorney general instructed prosecutors what they should consider. One, whether the corporation has made significant investments in its corporate compliance program. Two, whether the corporation has made significant improvements to internal control systems. And three, whether the remedial improvements to the compliance program and internal controls have been tested to demonstrate that they would prevent or detect similar misconduct in the future to determine whether a monitor is appropriate. Now, you can get the full report in the PDF that I attach here as part of this program. Of course, you can visit us at compliancemitigation.com. So the first step is a risk assessment. The prosecutors don't want to see boilerplate compliance programs. Rather, every company should complete a risk assessment and create training systems and control systems that are appropriate for the company. A healthcare provider, for example, is going to have a different risk exposure than a telemarketing company. And as such, each company should invest to build compliance programs that address risk levels, and that each company should implement these well-documented internal control systems that, of course, professional organizations like those who are watching this video likely have in place. But since I've met thousands of business professionals that went to federal prison, and many of those people claimed that they did not know or understand the implications or decisions they made on the job, it would seem that compliance programs should include basic lessons on white-collar crime. Regardless of what industry a business may serve, if the businesses use a telephone, a website, email, snail mail, or interacts with consumers in any way, that business is vulnerable to investigations and potentially criminal charges. After all, companies don't break the law. People that work in companies break the law. And sadly, many of those people do not know the criminal implications of the decisions they make. So according to the white paper, prosecutors make a reasonable, individualized determination in each case that considers various factors, including the company's size, the company's industry, the geographical footprint, the regulatory landscape, and many other factors that are both internal and external to the company's operations and the compliance program that they've designed. Prosecutors effectively have to ask three fundamental questions, and I really want you to pay attention to these three questions because they're the questions that prosecutors use to determine whether a deferred prosecution agreement or a non-prosecution agreement is even appropriate. And really what that means is the company can avoid being brought into the criminal justice system at all if it can answer these questions in the best way possible. Question 1. Is the corporation's compliance program well designed? Question 2. Is the program being applied earnestly and in good faith? In other words, is the program adequately resourced? Does it have the power to function effectively? And 3, does the corporation's compliance program work in practice? You better have some measuring tools in place to show why you have your compliance program and whether it's working. Because according to the DOJ, the critical factors in evaluating any program are whether the program is adequately designed for maximum effectiveness in preventing and detecting wrongdoing by employees. If it sounds like the government wants all of your employees to be quasi-law enforcement officers, then I'm communicating well, because that's exactly what they want. If everybody is marching along the same lines of compliance and obliging all regulatory concerns, you stand a better chance of being targeted for a criminal prosecution. So for example, if the company has a policy statement that says it will not tolerate bribery, but it rewards sales professionals that bribe others to do business with the company may face harsh scrutiny from prosecutors. In fact, prosecutors are likely to bring criminal charges against such a company and possibly against the leaders, and they can allege willful blindness, that the leader really intentionally buried its head in the sand. The DOJ wants prosecutors to examine the comprehensiveness of the compliance program, ensuring that there is not only a clear message that the company will not tolerate misconduct, but also it employs policies and procedures including the appropriate assignment of responsibility, effective training programs, and systems of incentives for people that comply with programs and discipline for people who violate the programs. So taken together, the compliance program should be well integrated into the company's operation and workforce. Now, to start, a prosecutor will want to evaluate whether a company has undertaken an effective risk assessment. The company should create messaging to show that it has identified, assessed, and defined its risk profile. I showed you that in the first module. The compliance program should devote appropriate scrutiny and resources to the spectrum of risks that the company faces. The company leader should anticipate that prosecutors will ask the following questions. What are the reasons behind the company's compliance program? How has the company's compliance program evolved over time? If you can't answer those questions effectively, you're not ready. So when assessing whether a company should qualify for leniency, the DOJ white paper advises prosecutors to consider whether the compliance program is appropriately designed to detect the particular types of misconduct most likely to occur in a particular corporation's line of business and the complex regulatory environment. Some factors that prosecutors will consider include, the location of operations. Is this business located in an area where there's a higher risk of corruption? The industry sector, what specific factors exist in the sector that could expose somebody to an investigation? What about competitiveness in the marketplace, the regulatory landscape, the potential clients and business partners, the transactions with foreign governments or people in foreign governments, payments to third parties, travel expenses, entertainment expenses, charitable and political donations. All of these factors will really help prosecutors, or rather how a company responds to these factors will help prosecutors decide whether the company is a good citizen or not. So the DOJ white paper suggests that prosecutors may be more inclined to grant leniency to the business and possibly offer a deferred prosecution agreement if the company leaders can show how they went through a risk analysis, if they can show how they tailored a compliance program based on what it learned from the risk analysis, and if the company can show that it periodically updates its compliance program. Prosecutors expect company officials to periodically assess the risk of criminal conduct, misconduct, and take appropriate steps to design, implement, or modify every requirement to reduce the risk of criminal conduct. And a salient point in the government's guidance is that prosecutors may credit the quality and effectiveness of a risk-based compliance program that devotes appropriate attention and resources to high-risk transactions, even if it fails to prevent an infraction. In fact, if the company makes revisions to corporate compliance programs in light of lessons that it learned, that company is going to receive more favorable treatment from a prosecutor. So to identify, analyze, and address the particular risks that a company faces, it should take the time to write out a full story. For example, the company can take proactive measures by writing out the company's process to identify staff members it hires. It can create a clearly defined org chart with job descriptions and lines of accountability and responsibility. It can write out the company's customer acquisition strategy, the policy statements, the way that it processes orders or protects customer privacy. It can create the scripts that employees are supposed to use when communicating with consumers. It can create a cloud-based documentation retention policy, tools that show how the company trains team members, and a corporate code of conduct that documents the company's disciplinary process. All of these strategies will go a long way toward preparing a company for a deferred prosecution agreement. And so, in the PDF that I attach, I give more details on this subject matter. But really, you want to show if the company has a process for tracking and incorporating its periodic risk assessment lessons, whether it learns from the experiences of other companies that are operating in the same industry, and whether the company is really taking steps to show prosecutors that it's really designed something that is unique and specific to the company. So I know that we're coming to the end of our time together because I only had 105 minutes. But I've got so much more content to provide. What I'm going to do is provide a PDF that accompanies the rest of this course that you can download and read at your leisure. I will also include links to other videos that we offer at Compliance Mitigation that will help you understand more about what you should do to develop your own tool or resource that will qualify your business for a deferred prosecution agreement, because we really want you to avoid these problems that have complicated the lives of so many other people and business leaders. We want you to understand the structure, how to design it. We want you to understand how you create a training program, and we want you to understand the purposes that your compliance program should serve. So again, we have a list, a link at the bottom of this program to get questions, answers if you have any, and you'll find me very responsive. My name is Michael Santos. You can reach me at michael@compliancemitigation.com. That information is, of course, available here on the PowerPoint. I don't know if it's here or here because the way I'm trying to grow. But look, we really believe in spreading this information, and we'd love to help you. In fact, if you want to provide a more detailed course to your clients, contact us. We can help you in that regard, and even maybe develop some type of a relationship that this can become a new product for your business or your practice. I just want to close by thanking you for giving me your attention, and hope that you are able to help more business leaders understand how to avoid a government investigation, how to position themselves for leniency if, God forbid, they are brought into a government investigation. And if you ever need a resource to help, please reach out to us at compliancemitigation.com. We have a motto, that is, we did the time so you won't have to. I'm Michael Santos, and I want to thank you again for giving me your attention.